Hi, it's a great day to talk about you and your band. Suppose you are releasing your latest album. You've got a lot of interview questions these days. Are you in a good training for some more? How are you doing?
Uh, no, this is just kind of, freestyling always, man. I just love talking music and especially talking about this new record. I'm so proud of it. The band is so proud of it. And, everybody that's gotten to hear it has really loved it. So the more I can share it and get it out there to more people, the better for the world, you know?
All right, then let's turn to your career. So you've been playing since 2004. It's 20 years ago. This is quite a solid proof of your endurance. Have you planned to become a musician from the beginning? And would you be similarly persistent if you choose something different in your life?
You know, yeah, I think, I started, my mom was a independent mother. I had a deadbeat real dad. And my mom was looking for any way to make our lives change, and she started working with bands and started this metal club in Arizona in like 1985, around when I was born. And I think that just kind of that was the beginning. Being around bands like Sacred Reich and Atrophy and Flotsam and Jetsam and Jason Newsted and just all this really cool stuff that was happening around our lives at that time. That my mom was really um, beginning to pursue and create. And then I began to really just love singing. And I was 5 years old asking for like a microphone for Christmas, and running around the house screaming bubble butt, like that classic song by SOD. So I've really just always loved this. And I think it catapulted as life continued, and Max coming into our lives, and really just opening the floodgates of what music is and how big it is and how connective it is. And that really resonated with me. So when I got out of high school, it was the first thing I wanted to do was start a band, see what happened, see how I liked it. And I loved it. It was everything that I am as a person. It's hard, it's gritty, it's rough days, it's challenging. It's a really cool life. I think looking back, yeah, I might have done it a little different, in terms of what the outcome is. But it's been a hell of a ride. I've made incredible relationships with people, created some incredible music, and have been fortunate enough to play it all over the world. So uh, I'm very, very happy with heavy metal and it being a part of my life.
Hmm. Such a lucky turn of events that all your life is directed towards making cool metal music. And speaking of Max, generally everybody knows that you are a stepson of Max
Rude
Cavalera.
human.
And how much does it motivate you, and what advices have you got from him?
Um, what I it definitely played parts in it. I think I was already well on my way to that being my life. I think Max coming in just kind of um was more of a solidification of having me given the chance to do what I think I was born and put here to do. And that's help people release from hard days or tough lives or relatable vibes. So as far as you know the details of like how we are, no, I don't really do that. Max is his own person and I'm me. I think it's more of a visual learning that I've had from him, like
Uh,
watching how he interacts with the crowd, or,
oh,
watching his dedication to his job and to the love of music. I think those are the things that really guided me and helped me, rather than him being like, hey, this is how you sing or this is how you write a song. Like I never wanted that. I wanted this to be my project. I want him to listen to my CD and steal the riffs. Like I'm that was my vision and how I have put this band together, and took it from nothing to where it is today, 7 albums, 20 years. And, I'm very fortunate with everything. And, he's at least a cool father to where it's like, go do your thing. I'm not gonna do it for you. I'm not gonna do anything like that. And that's how I wanted it. So it's just been a, a really cool ride while maintaining just being a family.
Wow, that's impressive. So he just let you found your own way, giving some great advices and directions in your life. And this is what I think led to the progress of Incite because plenty of your
No, 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 no. Max doesn't have anything to do with the progression of Insight. Unfortunately, I think people want to believe that and think that, but he does his band and I do my band, or they do their. But it's really everybody kind of just being themselves and doing what they want to and how they want to do it. I'm not uh, telling him what's cool or how to write, and I think that's what makes us so special and giving us our own space and be your own creators and do it that kind of way, and continue on the Cavalera legacy rather than like try to emulate it or can be that same thing. So that's what's cool about it
oh yeah,
for sure.
it's pretty cool. But anyway, you released so many albums throughout the years, and the style stayed solid. But
Yeah.
the improvement shines through of your records, the technical improvement. But which of your record do you consider the true breakthrough release? And is there any of your album which you consider a bit more underrated than you expected?
Good question. I think my our turning point was probably our Built to Destroy record. I think that began to put us more in the style and direction and uh, influence that you're hearing today, and kind of where we wanted the band to be, and what we wanted it to sound like. So that record to me really stands out as being that beginning. I think you start to hear vocals change, the style, and getting a lot more grown and fitting, and that was definitely an integral part to where we are now. And my most underrated one would probably be Up in Hell. I think that was the beginning of me, Lennon, and Elle in our 13 years together now. And that record, to me is a great record. If I could go back and like record one of the records, it would definitely be that one. And I think the producer was kind of a flake at the time, and kind of hurt that record rather than helped it like they're supposed to. So that would be the one I'd like to redo and get that right and sounding the way it should have been.
I see. And from the fans' perspective, which of your record is the most cultivated, most famous?
I would probably say our last one, Wake Up Dead. I think that was like the first album we put out with a more serious record label. It's the first album where we really had, like distribution and promotion and all this kind of stuff that you really need to get your music out into the world. So that was like the introduction of like us, finding just the right formula, finding the right attitude. And I think again that's such a pivotal lyrical growth for me. I think you hear the style changing, you hear the intensity of what it is. And that record is like a fan favorite. At least some of the like Deadbeat and War Soup, and those are some of our most successful songs to date. So probably that record for sure.
Oh, so these are the most definitive kind of songs and records. And
Yeah.
for a newcomer to your music, how could you describe the genre you are playing? Maybe it's some kind of groove thrash metal mixed with exciting new technical and musical themes or something else.
No, that's wait. We're just heavy metal. We that is what we call ourselves, because what that is, when you listen to us, just like you said, there's so many pieces that we can take from every genre and use into our style without it sounding like we're trying to do that. It's it doesn't just become thrash, because then there's melodic songs like Dolores that is anything but thrash. That's black metal, and then you have just such a different vibe. So the way we like to describe ourselves is heavy metal, and we're a band that if you like water, if you like breathing air, you will like what we do, because that's how relatable and definite of what we do. We're a band that you can listen to, and I think someone that just got into heavy metal can enjoy, and somebody that's been listening to metal for 40 years can enjoy. And it's fresh, it's organic, it's aggressive, it's healing at the same time, as far as like mental release and an anger release, a positive release, whatever that may be for the listener, and I think that's the kind of band we become. We can really appeal to just about anybody, I think now, and they'll get to go back and enjoy all of our records that we've created, in the course of this band.
Yeah, I think so that there is a lot more to do with your music than just thrash metal. There are
Yeah.
several influences mixed together, and that makes it great. Turning to your new upcoming album, Savage New Time, it is going to be released in August with the Reigning Phoenix label behind your back. Three singles available on the streaming services, and it provides a great appetizer for the whole record. Please tell us something about this masterpiece in progress.
Yeah, I mean, we actually just released the fourth single, which I think for a metal album is quite extraordinary, and we have a fifth single that's coming out also. Most bands CDs barely have five good songs, let alone five singles. And to us, I believe we could have put out all 10 songs as singles, and the songs that aren't coming out, like Doubts and the Fears and Chucked Off and Used and Abused. These are also standout tracks. I really believe that each song on this record is as powerful as the last. It takes the metalhead through a journey, of self discovery, of self reflection, of self growth. And that's what we really were able to present with this one. So I think people are getting a good understanding about this album from the singles we released and the videos and all that stuff that it entails. So uh, my forward thinking is just like um, getting people to hear these songs, and one of these tracks will stick out to you where you want to go check out the rest, and it kind of just snowballs from there. And I'm very happy with Reigning Phoenix Music. They're the first like major record label we've ever been on. This is the first time we've had an album really be released like album's supposed to be released, with press and a team around you nurturing it and believing it and building it. So it's incredibly exciting, to be alongside like Meshuggah and Opeth and Kerry
Wow.
King and all these. Yeah, it's mind blowing. We've
Thanks.
always been just on the smallest record label ever, with no bands, just us. It was always just weird. So it's cool after all these years to have something like that happen. That's so exciting and so um, groundbreaking for us.
Hmm. Exciting times, really. Uh,
Definitely.
are you more excited before releasing this new single or before the album? Did you get good ratings and praises for your latest song from the fan base?
Yeah, that's been the really cool part. I think as far as like even the press, the record label, everybody is a believer in this album. Everybody is beyond fired up about it. Everybody that's talked to me is um, over thrilled about the record, and that's definitely different. In the past you'd have a song or two that people would like, or this or that, but this is it just feels so much different, and the feedback that we're getting from everybody. And my most exciting part was the first single. That was a 2 year process going through change of management, change of record label, all these things that were going on and made it slow to like a halt, and you just had to be really patient and understand that all this was happening for a reason. That Just a Rat song finally came out. Not only was it received well, but also just impacted people. Everybody's gone through situations of dealing with toxic people or um, toxic situations, and that song really resonated to the listener on that aspect, and finally to like get that first song out, it was just like, all right, now it's going, now you can't put it back in the bottle. It's go time. And that's always my favorite part.
Oh, great. Turning to the recording process, it was your fourth time with Steve Yvette, who supported bands such as Dillinger, Escape Plan. Uh, so, did you get on well with him? How could you describe your cooperation with Steve?
Yeah, he's just an awesome dude. As a person and as a producer mixer. The when we first got him, it was just a disbelief because all the people he had worked with, for him to be working with us was just unreal. And we just built this really incredible family brotherhood during the course of that first record. And it just kind of evolved to where we would talk after the album and in between. And, then it was like, oh, let's do another one together, see if we can, improve on the last one. And that's what began to happen. Each record was getting better. And, he was understanding who we were as a band and bringing out like more experiences from us and bringing out like the talents that maybe we were afraid to harness. So on this album, it was just like, it was so different even with him. We were in a completely different state in a completely different recording studio, so the atmosphere, the vibe, it was more focused on this album. There weren't a lot of distractions, and we went in there and just hammered it out like 20 days in a row, recording, no breaks, no sleep really.
Oh,
It was tough, but he's a champion like that. He can work in that kind of environment and still have a clear mind and understanding of the record. And I think, that to me is one of the biggest standouts of this album is the sound and the production, the guitar tone. I think that stuff is just it's so on point. And that's a really a big um, credit to him. And I think we may never work with another producer other than in the course of this band's career.
mm.
Like we worked with a couple different people at the start of the band, and those just went so bad. And the vibe was never there. The camaraderie was never there. It was more of these guys were just trying to get a paycheck, rather than giving a shit about the band and the songs and like that. And Steve just he loves it. He knows his name's on it, so he wants it to be the best.
Oh, sounds like a really maximalist person, but the one can bring out the best from all of you.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
that's great to have such a producer. Okay.
Yeah.
Turning from the studio to your band profile, I noticed that you have a new logo and cover. Was it for a purpose? How could you comment on that?
Yeah, well, we really wanted to just kind of revamp, relaunch like an Incite 2.0, with this record and how big it was feeling to us. We really wanted everything to kind of evolve. I think that's something cool when bands can change their logos as they go, like Deftones do it, or like Sepultura was really good with that stuff. And for us, um, it ran its course. It was time for something more exciting, more definitive. And we had Marcelo Vasco, who did the album cover, also do the logo. And he's the first person that's ever been able to create a logo for us where we saw it and we were just like, that's the one. And I think it has more expression to it about how the word insight, how powerful that word is. Before it was just kind of simple. Now it really, to me, is eye catching, and it's more in tune with our style and us as a band. So it was definitely a focus point for this record, and relaunching everything as far as Insight was concerned.
Oh, great. Now, jumping from the band profile and from the studio to the tours, I saw that you are about to begin your Ruthless tour with bands such as Hatebreed, Fugitive, Malevolence, so all great names at home. But will you play the new songs there? And how could you imagine those live shows you are going to give?
Oh man, we're gonna be like a nuclear bomb going off. Like we only played, I think, one show in the last year and a half, which is very crazy for us. You know, we're a band that was doing 120 shows every year for the last 10 years. So we really took a pause, and now I think you feel this energy brewing up in each guy, along with the songs, and then of course being the biggest stage that we've ever been on in terms of a tour. You know, to be alongside of these great bands, these upcoming bands, you know, I think we can really show who we are and show what sets us apart from so many of the bands in this. And that's, you know, our energy, our intensity, our will to get people to have fun and enjoy the show and just forget all the bullshit and just let let go. You know, that's what we strive for in our concert setting. So to get to do this, yeah, with like Hatebreed and you know Fugitive and all these bleeding through, it's a dream come true and something we've worked for 20 years now to get to this level. So I if I was you, I would definitely not miss the show if you have a chance to see it and you know come enjoy Incite being on a legendary tour with incredible bands. You know, it's gonna be a good time for anybody.
Hmm. Sounds like you are full of energies and you are really ready to
Woo.
explode. I really wish to
that
see you in Europe. Uh,
that is for sure, man. Yeah, we should be over in Europe, from what I've heard, early next year, and as well as the summertime next summer for festivals and such. So, definitely going to hit Europe extremely hard next year.
oh wow, that sounds great. Really wish to
Yeah.
see you, especially in Budapest.
Oh yeah.
Um, and from Europe now, taking a step to Budapest. Do you remember your last concert here? We are definitely craving for a new one because we love you so much. Until you then, what can you say to our fans impatiently waiting for you?
In the meantime, go check out all of our awesome singles. Get that CD. That way, when we come, you're singing the songs, you're headbanging to the songs. You know what Inside is about, especially on the new album. And we'll see you guys at the Barba Negra in no time.
Mhm. Yay.
Yeah, I love
Great.
you know Budapest. We've been fortunate to play there quite a few times with Septic Flesh and with Cavalera and Soulfly, and you know it's always been a great experience, a beautiful time. We have many friends there, and we're definitely looking forward to getting back and you know presenting Savage New Times in a live concert for everybody.
Yeah, we are so waiting for you. Yeah, taking a step from the shows and from the stage behind the scenes a bit. I suppose sometimes you do something in your spare time other than playing music. And can you tell us something about your hobbies you are using to distract yourself or getting mad about metal?
Yeah. You know, my big thing that I'm getting a little older, you know, is really spending quality time with like my fiance, enjoying the peace and quiet of my house and the ocean. I become very big into like bike riding at the ocean and just really harnessing that peace. You know, when you're on tour as much as I am, you're around people. It's constant noise. It's endless giving of yourself to people, you know, even people that you don't know a lot of the times. And that's a lot of energy that's absorbed from you, you know, to show up every day and put that happy face on. So when I'm home, it's a serious decompression and my peace and my harmony, you know, where I go to recharge to get ready for the next tour. But yeah, we love you know taking bike rides or doing hikes and you know just sitting at the ocean and just looking and breathing and you know watching TV shows. I get into that a lot, you know, crimes and mysteries and all that stuff. And you know, I'm just a laid back, chill dude. You know, I find being home is you know becoming something I really love a lot. You know, and it's becoming a balanced thing now. You know.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's a great chance for recharging and finding the balance and getting
Yeah.
energies for the ongoing tours. So, Richie, thanks for answering the question. It was a great talk, and I'm very glad to get to know you better. So fingers crossed for you and keep up doing such metal you are doing because it's awesome.
My brother, thank you so much for taking your time, to talk music. And, I again, I hope to be there as soon as possible. We can have a pint, smoke a joint, and just, have a good time listening to some heavy music and, reflect on all these awesome times of the band coming what it's gonna, Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Have a nice
Hey,
evening.
you too, man.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
it.
Thank you.